What is business coaching?
Effective communication strategies, making sure that you are.
I'm sorry, Ray. I guess you take ownership on it as well, because it's like, if this person is not doing their part, then, you know.
I don't even hold my hat on that, because you know what? At the end of the day, that's on you.
When was the time that you realized I want to get into coaching?
Yeah. Is coaching bullshit, right? And I think in some cases it can be.
Yo. ¿Qué lo que? Jay.
Otra vez?
Why are you looking at me? I'm just happy to see you guys, man.
Oh, happy to see you too.
We had
a long vacation.
Very. I could say so.
No?
A little break.
All right.
Not a long
But
vacation.
we got another special one today. A really special. We ended the season on
the end of the year with a bang and starting it off with a bang.
And we started with another banger.
There you
Bam.
go.
So we have our guest. So again, for the people saying that we don't have enough females on the show, right?
Here we are.
Here we
are.
So we have the beautiful Jessica Rivera from JNR Coaching, right?
JR Coaching.
JR Coaching, not JNR. Sorry, JR Coaching.
JNR is a music
Jessica,
store.
and I'm going to put Jessica on the spot real quick.
Okay, let's do it.
Real quick, I'm going to put Jessica on the spot. So who is Jessica Rivera?
Who is Jessica Rivera? I'm a mother.
Oh, okay.
I'm a mother. I am an entrepreneur. I'm a sister. I am a daughter. I'm a human being.
I love that.
So the reason I asked that, because remember last episode, right? So you asked Jules, right? Because it's how we met you through Jules.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Right? You do coaching for Jules.
Yeah.
And you asked her, you know, who's Jules Mella or Jules Mella? Now that's a joke, right, for us. But who's Jules Mella? And she didn't, you know, she has businesses. She's an entrepreneur. And she didn't mention any of her brands. So
she mentioned,
according to
who
her
she
story,
worked for.
she's like, she's like, well, Jessica said, wow, like you have all these brands and you're mentioning all these people that you work for instead of mentioning your own brand. So I was like, let me put Jessica on the spot real quick. Let me see who Jessica is.
How long did it take you to think about that?
Bro, I do my work. I do my homework. So
I'm starting to believe you're really getting paid more than us.
or not enough at all.
He's like, I need to
up that check. You do all the work. You do all the research.
But no, Jessica, first, you know, thank you for being here. Thank you for accepting our invitation.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. No, we had some. I was telling you before the show, we had a brief conversation during our ILX holiday party. We started talking about coaching, and you know, it was really interesting because we had an episode a couple episodes ago, which I went back to listen to, Jay and Jelly, about coaching and being coached and having a mentor and how important is it, or is it just bullshit, right?
Okay.
So we started the conversation at the party. So I'm like, yo, Jessica, what do you think about coaching? I think that's all bullshit. She's like, well, you know,
what did I say? Because I don't remember.
Well, no, I don't know. Let's talk.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
But let's start there. So I went back and listened to the episode, and actually, I was surprised at how my conclusion of my thoughts on coaching was, because I went into it like saying like, yo, this is BS. And during the episode, like I hear because I really don't listen to the episodes. I don't go back and listen to them. But I went and I listened to this one, and I was like, holy shit, like you hear me change my mind throughout the episode. And then I'm like, fuck, man, like I wanted to go in.
You want me to change your mind a little bit more right now? Is that what you want to do?
So let's start there. Let's start with coaching, because that's what you do, business coaching, right? So
I do.
What is business coaching?
So for me personally, business coaching can go a lot of different ways. But for me, I like to focus on changing and evolving people's mental models. I typically work with CEOs and with entrepreneurs. So working on evolving their mental models, effective communication strategies, making sure that you are effectively communicating, because I'm going to tell you, most people have a problem with communicating.
Right.
And
when you say have a problem with communicating, articulating.
We'll dive into it.
All right.
Lastly, I really focus on leadership. When we have teams and leaders who show up authentically as themselves in organizations, studies show profits and productivity goes up. And so when we can create belonging organizations, that's where the rubber kind of meets the road, and that's where you can really evolve and grow your business. And so I love to help people make money.
Ooh. Sign me up for that.
Yeah.
I mean, I think all of us, right? But let me ask you a question. How did you actually, when was the time that you realized I want to get into coaching?
Yeah. So
that's a great question.
This is a good question, and it kind of leads back to what you were saying. Like, is coaching bullshit, right? And I think in some cases it can be. And there's two reasons why I think that. Number one, if the person's not prepared or open to it, it's never going to work. You can go to therapy for years and
you're saying the person receiving the
person
coaching,
receiving
right?
the coaching or the therapy
Right.
or whatever, if they are not open to receiving it, they're never going to get it. So then in that case, sure, you can call it bullshit, right? On the other side, we're in an era where coaching is like the new thing, right?
Right.
And it's quite a business.
It's like trendy.
Very trendy. And so many times, and I've seen it and I've witnessed it, and I know some of these people, they read a book and they think that they're a coach, or they got some like aha moment and then they want to teach everybody. But I don't believe that that's how it works.
I mean,
like you cannot become an expert. You have to put, I think it's like 10,000 hours into doing something before you can become an expert. And these people are like, oh my God, I went on this one retreat, or I did
Tony Robbins.
Book, I did Tony Robbins, and now I could be a coach. And I do not believe that that's how that works. So I can see where you come from when you say coaching can be bullshit.
Okay, I'm sorry, Jelly, you got something?
Yeah, I had a question. So I now that you're fully hands on, at a certain point were you in the same situation where you had a coachee or mentor?
Yeah. So I'm going to go back to your original question of like, when did I start coaching? And so my career has been mainly in corporate. I was in sales. So when you're in sales, and you guys are in some form of sales, right? Or at some point, or you're in
deep.
sales. You're in sales.
Deep.
So you're deep in sales. Okay. So I don't know about you, but for me, sales really opened up my personality. Like it forced me. I always say that I feel like I'm like a shy extrovert. Right? Like I love being around people, but I wasn't the type, and I'm still kind of not the type to go up to you and be like, hi, my name is Jessica. Like that just feels weird for me. So sales really helped develop my personality. And then as I started growing and going up the corporate ladder and I would lead teams, I led teams remotely. Okay. And so I also led teams I was in a male dominated industry. A lot of these men were older than me and had been in the business longer than me. Right. And so having to...
And they were probably white.
And they were all white.
There you go.
I was typically... I said this the other day. I was speaking at an event for Jack and Jill, an organization for young people. And I was speaking to high school seniors. And I was saying, like, in corporate, I felt like I had three negatives, right? I was a woman. Well, I am a woman. I'm a woman of color. And then I also never finished college.
Right.
And so all of my peers had graduated college. And so I always felt like I just needed to do more and overachieve and all of that, which did lead me into kind of in that more like alpha role, right? Which helped me because I was in sales, right? And my clients were all men also. So
what kind of sales was it?
So it was financial services in the automotive industry. And so when I was like
is that and then just I'm sorry to cut you off, but financial services like just the loans or like the upselling of like, hey, buy this protection or
so I was not I was B2B.
Okay.
So my client was the dealership.
Gotcha.
Right. So like the owners, those people. And so it would always crack me up when they'd say, oh, you're the best looking rep we have. I'm like, are you comparing me to like the old
to Mitch?
Are you comparing me to this guy over here? But you know, so that was a joke. But anyway, so as I started leading teams, what's funny is that I always felt like I didn't have the greatest leaders in the sense of like, they weren't necessarily nurturing me. Okay. They weren't necessarily pouring into me. It was like that old school command and control kind of vibe, which I responded to because I'm like, okay, fine. I'm going to prove it to you. I could do it. And which was great, but I was also forcing it and it felt exhausting. Okay. But then they wanted me to treat my team that way too. Right, and it didn't feel good. And so that's where... long answer to your question, but that's why I really dove into coaching and I really started doing self-development. And when I started doing that and saying, okay, wait, how am I responding? How am I treating them? What can I do better? Then my team started performing better. And they said their jobs were easier and my job was easier. My assistant's jobs was easier. And our numbers were we were killing it and everything felt like it flowed. And I was like, oh my God, I need to teach this to everybody.
So to that, and I guess coaching, right? You mentioned it before. It's like this trendy thing, right? And I think it's very easy to people put coach on their Instagram profile, right? Like, because you know there's no there are no checks and balances, right? Like nobody's checking and authenticating, right? So what makes someone a coach, or like how can you, if I'm out there looking for a coach, right? How do I verify that this person is qualified to be a coach, a business coach?
So the way I would qualify a person, because its certificate doesn't really mean anything. It's like going to college. Once you're done and you have your marketing degree, doesn't mean you know how to market anything.
Right.
So I would say ask questions, interview people, ask, what have you done? What have you been through? Like, I used to, and you can check my LinkedIn profile, right? I used to manage a $4 billion department. Yeah, we know how to sell. Like, selling, that's easy. But it's that mental model. It's how to effectively communicate, how to articulate your value. That is not easy.
Right.
And it also evolves over time. And so understanding how you can show up as a leader in the room without being an asshole, right? That takes
I think
time.
that goes a long
Most
way.
leaders are assholes, right?
I don't
No,
I don't.
Hey.
I think everybody wants to be a better leader. I think we have this perception of what a leader should be. And sometimes we do think they should be an asshole. You know how many times or people have said, or women have said, like, I like to be the bitch in the room. I don't know if that's true.
Right.
You think that that's how you can get a lot, but you actually get a lot more. As we know, you get a lot more with honey than you do with vinegar.
What makes a great
That
leader?
is so
That is
true.
so true.
What makes a great leader?
To me, a great leader is someone who shows up authentically, someone who, I always say the best leaders speak last, right? If I'm the leader in the room and I say, what do you think about this Prosecco? I think it's delicious. Automatically, you're going to want to agree with me because I'm the leader in the room. You don't want to necessarily go against me. So if the goal is always to speak last, ask everybody else, let them speak first. That's where you show true, number one, confidence and leadership, when you're like, oh, let everybody else speak. You know what? You have a better idea than I do.
Guys,
That
cheers,
shows
cheers to that,
leadership.
because that's
All right,
That's heartfelt.
But what?
That means, Ray, you got to speak last.
No, because that's a good.
We're all cheersing and not sipping, huh?
Oh, sorry.
Just
We'll
wondering.
sip. To that point.
he'll
Right.
chug it.
So So all right, how do you become a leader without being in a leadership role? Right.
I love this question.
Okay. All right. There was a second part, but since you love it just like that, I'm gonna leave it right there.
Because that's the perception we have, right? We
Right.
have to lead people in order to be a leader. And the truth is we're all leaders in our own right, if we want to be.
Right.
Right? When we want to be, and we all could be. And so at the end of the day, we all have influence. And so if you just develop your leadership skills by doing what I just said, even if you're in a friend group, letting everybody else take the table, letting other people have the floor, and then authentically say your perspective, even when others don't agree or you think they might not agree, that's how you show up as a leader.
Right.
And being okay with, you don't have to come to my side, honey. Like, you could think whatever you want to think. You don't have to think how I think.
Yeah.
Right? I'm going to allow you to think how you think. I'm going to think how I think. And we're all going to share a perspective, and it does not have to be the same. Those are simple, easy ways to show up as a leader.
I feel like I have to pay Jessica for an hour because I have a bunch of questions, but I want to let you guys know. So
You're about to start
I was about to
bombarding
say,
her.
no, but what about this?
So,
I'll invoice you.
I mean, Jules said you only get 3 questions for free. The 4th one, she's gonna have to charge you. Now, I don't know about her policy.
So I just have half a question.
And here's where we plug in Higher Production Studios
Higher
for that 10%
Production
discount. Help to cover the cost.
Jessica, let me ask you a question in regards to how do you measure the metrics of your success, or how would a coach measure their business based on metrics, right? Besides the fact of how many students can sign up and things like that.
So I recently had a reel that went viral, right? It had over 200,000 views. So plays I don't care about that part, but what I did kind of care about was the forwards and the comments and the saves, because then that means I'm really resonating with somebody, right? And so success, that could be success to people, right? Oh, I had a reel that went viral, right? I personally never cared about that. Now, I know that other people care about that, so I did care about followers because I know that there's a perception out there that people validate you that way and they think that means something. But for me, success does mean money. I care about the more money I make, the more I can serve, right? The more I can do maybe free speaking gigs or whatever it may be. So I do care about making money. That is a data point for me. But impact, when I see my clients successful, when I see their mindset change, when I see them show up more confidently, when I see them execute on what they say they were going to do, ideas that they've been holding on to for 3, 4, 8 years, I could cry right now thinking about it.
Yeah, I think that because I know that we were going to record today and stuff. So on my right back, I did a little homework, bro. You're not the only one. I went to school too.
No, you're the only one that went to school.
I think that it was inspiring just to see that this person was able to commit to their dream after over a decade. Once he find the right coach, once he found that the ability of that person to get that desire out of them, and I think that it hit me. I was like, all right, maybe that probably could be one of the ways that a coach can measure the metric of success, right?
Impact. 100%.
To see how impactful they are to your life and stuff. I mean, I think I still haven't found one. And I think, we did have that conversation when we did recorded the episode. I'm open to be able to, sign up for a coach one day in which because there's ideas, right? But ideas always come to your brain and start flowing through you. But the idea is not as important as the execution. Right? It's all about the execution for me, right? So you can have a million ideas, but if you don't execute them, then
it means nothing.
Yeah, exactly.
It means nothing.
So, but I think, for sure, that was kind of like my question comment.
From I guess, in my perspective, and I've seen it because we've all been in leadership roles, right? And you kind of can, like my first years as a leader in the organization I was in a corporate job, I went in with the idea of, let me see what comes from the top and then push it forward,
right?
Which didn't necessarily work because when you try to push it forward from how it comes from the top, sometimes might come off the wrong way. And then, the people that you're trying to get to push, the objective or the agenda kind of feel, it rubs off on them a wrong way. And then I said, I had to have a personality shift. And I'm like, you know what? Let me do it how I did in the past when I was like one of the soldiers in the trenches, work along with them. Because sometimes a lot of times some people have a block that they just need a different perspective. And if you kind of walk them through the process you went through, it could work, it might not work, but at least they give them a different perspective to kind of open up their mind to kind of be like, you know what, maybe he's right. Maybe I can try it this way. Because sometimes people, a lot of times people just create roadblocks and they don't know that it's just their form of mentality.
It makes you real. Right? It makes you real. When
authentic. You keep saying, you keep using the word authentic, right?
Yeah. When we can admit, I don't know it all. I don't know it all. And I messed up and I'm not perfect, right? And so I have older children, young adults. And I remember when they were younger, one time them telling me like something around I think I'm perfect. I'm like, where? Where? I had a kid. I had you at 19. Where do I think I'm perfect? But they don't remember the struggle, right? They only remembered where we were at that point, and things were really good at that point. And so when we can remind people, okay, yes, I also mess up. No, I'm not perfect. It does. It makes you authentic and it makes you real.
Yeah, I think it's funny you guys mentioned that because I think I think it's great that we're defining what a leader is because of what I agree with you 100%. Like, I don't think many people or a lot of us don't really understand what a true leader is, right? Because a leader is not somebody who's in a position of authority necessarily, right? But then also there are connotations of like, okay, if you're a leader, you got to tell people what to do, right? Or people have to do things the way that you do things,
right?
Right? Which and you mentioned even like your leadership with your friend, with your group of friends, or also with like a younger sibling. I was always I consider myself like a lot of the things that I negative things that I try to work on, right? Like I speak a lot, right? I'm not the one who sits back and
you think
no, but in the sense of like Jessica's like, a true leader is the one who takes a step back and speaks last, right? I understand that. But I don't necessarily practice that because I'm the type of like, okay, I get excited and I want to jump in, right? Yeah. Not necessarily because, I know better, I know more than you. It's just those are the things I work on. But even like my little sister says I'm a control freak, right? Because I like things done a certain way. And then I feel like people have to do things
the way you do it.
The way that I do them, right? And even if we get to the same point, I'll be like, yeah, you did it, but nah.
The result wasn't the same.
You got a lot to learn.
But then those are things, right? So really diving into this whole coaching thing and where I want to take the conversation now is like, so what's the difference between a coach and a mentor? And when we spoke about it last, right? Me, my ignorant self that wants to talk a lot. I was like, yeah, you pay a coach, a mentor, you don't pay. Like, or there's a difference, right? But let's hear it from you. You're a professional. Like, what would you say the difference between a coach and a mentor is?
So I've had mentors before, right? That I, and it depends on the person, right? The truth is you can find a mentor that almost is your coach, right? It depends. But most of the time, a mentor has a mentor is someone who has done whatever you've done before, right? So let's say they have your same business, very similar business, and they're kind of here. They can plug you in with other people. Right. They kind of give you some of a path, but they're not in your business.
So would you say that a mentor is somebody that's a little more subjective as opposed to a coach?
I think a coach is really in your business. They are in your head, right? We are having deep conversations. It's more regular. It's scheduled. I'm unpacking
accountability,
almost everything, right? A mentor could give you some accountability, but we are really to me, this is Jessica speaking.
How you handle your
how
business.
I handle my business.
Right.
I'm in everything you are doing, right? We are really unpacking. I'm asking questions that you're like, what? Like,
right. No.
I don't know.
Like, so if we hired you to coach our business, we'd be like, oh, what? Yeah.
Yeah, you'd be like, oh man, you really want me to stop talking again? I'm like, yeah, you need to stop talking. Yeah. But
I'll get a lot of those.
And with a coach, there's pre-work, there's homework, where there's accountability. I will say this though. I have allowed people that I've worked with to fail.
Wow.
Yeah. Let's do it your way. And let's
because they don't see it.
Well, it's a learning experience.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. Because sometimes you got to, not sometimes, and that's what a true leader does, right? You're going to allow people to fail and do it the wrong way, or do it a way that may take a little bit longer, and ask them. When you learn as a leader how to ask the right questions, you rarely have to speak.
That's your show, guys. Wow. This is
That's it. It's a wrap.
That was a bomb. Right
that's
there.
true.
That's a mic drop.
Okay. Yeah, that needs to be a
real. That's the real right there.
No, that was dope, man.
Jay, go ahead. You have something?
Yeah, I have a lot of questions. All right. So let's say, what advice would you give to someone that's actually looking to start into coaching? Like, is there any book specific or how to get there?
I have so many books that I love. But I would say if you're looking to get into coaching, and I would ask you to be specific in what area you want to coach in, right? So you can coach strategy, you can coach sales, you could definitely be a sales coach, but I really want to ask, what experience have you actually had? Right? Please don't go just reading a book thinking that you can go ahead and coach. Please don't go on one retreat or one something and think you can do it, because I mean, I just don't believe that, right? So I would say there's so many books though. The Coaching Habit is a great book to read. I would say how much work, and this is what I found a lot of, and I'm going to be honest. Many leaders in either an organization or something, they feel like, oh my God, I love what you're doing. Like, this is amazing. I could do the same thing. And I'm like, great. And then they start saying, but people don't invest in coaching. But people are this. And they start going into the negative part of people. Mm-hmm. You're not ready to be a coach. You're not ready to be a coach. I think most people, whether they want to invest or don't invest, it's up to them to buy and be prepared to invest or not invest. But I don't think people are bad. I think most people are good. And if you walk into something, how are you going to coach people when you think most people are bad? Like, how does that work?
Yeah, you're already setting yourself up.
I mean, Jay, your question brings me back to the whole, that's why there may be people out there who think coaching is BS, right? Because
that's why.
You said something that kind of resonated at the beginning. You said, you kind of went on as to why or how you became a coach, right? And you spoke about like your experience leading a team, right? Like you based it off of experience. Like I was leading a team. I was in corporate America. I did this. I learned, that by allowing my team to do XYZ, things became easier. Everybody was happier. Right?
I've had therapists for a very long time. I did hire a coach. You asked me that before. I've gone on retreats. I've done all of that. You know what I find really interesting about the coaching, people wanting to coach now, is that, and I said this the other day on an IG Live, these coaches want to charge numbers that they were never willing to invest in themselves.
Yeah.
I'm like, how the fuck does that work?
That is
that's kind of like a rule of thumb, though.
It blows my mind. And I had an event, I had a goal setting workshop with about 22 executives and entrepreneurs on Sunday. They spent their whole Sunday with me. And we went to dinner after, and one of the girls there had done the back end of a retreat that I had gone on before we ever met. So she knows I paid money. Like, this is not,
Right.
I'm not making it up.
Right.
She knows I paid, I think it was like $15,000 for that trip. And I was saying, people want to charge high ticket. You don't even know what you're supposed to do in a high ticket coaching group or a retreat because you've never done it. You've never paid it for yourself. So how do you expect other people to pay that same amount? It blows my mind.
So, and look, I think that that's probably $1 billion industry, right? The whole coaching and mentoring, right? You look at the Tony Robbins of the world. You talk Joel Osteen, like we spoke about.
Jonathan keeps sending different types of invites. Like,
let's
go to Vegas.
I spoke to these guys. Well, I'll shout them out. Go Abundance, right? Like, I don't know if you've heard of them, but they do leadership retreats. They have like mentor groups, et cetera, et cetera. It's expensive, right? Like it's really expensive.
Pricey.
And then it's something that, number one, I guess you do have to be ready. Because how do you put a value on information in terms of like, I walk into a bodega, right? Like this is the same thing we said last time.
Yeah.
I'm going to pay XYZ for a bottle of water. If I go to a different place, I should get something similar for around the same price, right? Like,
well, but that doesn't happen.
But that's my point.
You go to the airport, you're paying a whole lot more money for that bottle of water.
Great point. But also in coaching and in these types of events, Jonathan and I can go to the same event, pay the same amount of money, and get different value.
Yeah, that's true.
From the same information.
That's very
right?
true.
So I think obviously you said it. You gotta be ready for coaching.
Correct.
Circling back real quick on coaching, I don't think someone should, and maybe I'm wrong, but the way that I see it, somebody shouldn't say I want to be a coach. I think it should happen more like it happened with you per se, where like, I did something.
And you transitioned into it. Like,
as a leader, I did something.
Organically transitioned.
And I feel like I created a system that works.
Right.
Right. Mm-hmm. And then maybe say, hey, I could help other people do the same thing. Mm-hmm. And obviously, we're all salespeople, so we're all money-driven individuals in this table. So yeah, how do I monetize this, right? But coming from like a genuine, authentic place, I think can make you a greater coach than saying, oh, yo, Jessica got 90,000 followers, and yo, I see her traveling the world, and people paying to spend time with. I want to be a coach.
Yeah. No.
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow. All right, so let's get nitty gritty.
Hold on, before we get there. So I know you mentioned earlier that you've had situations where you have people that have failed.
Yeah.
Or that she allows people to.
Yeah.
So what was the post?
Do they get a discount?
No. So like, what was the conversation afterwards? And
well, I'll give you a very specific example. And so they may have failed in one area, right? But they don't fail overall,
right?
Because there are other things that they're willing to execute on. So I had a client. I still actually have this client. And I had been telling her, you have such an amazing base of people, and the industry that she's in, she has a wait list. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, this makes no sense to me. If you have a wait list, there is a problem. There's a bottleneck, right? You have to hire more people, whatever. So, but she wasn't ready to do that. And you don't want to force them into it because then they can really fail and go under, right? If they're not ready. So anyway, little by little, she did different things. And one of the things I had told her she needs to do is teach, right? Instead of her implementing, she should do like a train the trainer. Mm-hmm. Okay. Then they won't need her, and she can actually serve more people. And so because I come from a remote environment, teaching online is normal for me, right? I've been doing it since 2006.
Like pre-pandemic.
Obviously 2006. Yeah. So a long time ago. But she wasn't comfortable. So finally, and as entrepreneurs, there's lots of passions and doing a lot of things that don't make any money. And I'm like this, Anyway, so we meet one day, and this just happened in December. And I said, I hope we're talking about something that makes money this time. And she said, I think I'm ready. I want to do it in person. And I'm like, perfect. Let's go find a place. We find a place. Listen, I started doing the math for her. I said, how much do you think we want to charge these people? Like, how much do you charge them now for your services? We're going to go a little less, and we're going to do a train the trainer. And these are all the benefits. When I did the math for her, I'm like, you can add about $300,000 in revenue
to your bottom line.
yes. Wow. And so Guess what happened? 4 weeks later, she did her first in-person training. But
she
I
did it
had
in
to
person.
let her fail and not do it. In my mind, it was a no-brainer. It made no sense on why you weren't doing it, but she had all of these roadblocks, and she was still putting roadblocks. Oh, I don't think they need computers. None of them have laptops. I said, how do you know? Are we making this up? Of course we were making it up, but we tend to make things up in our heads, right? We've all been there. So that's my point. By the way, I had another client, same thing, different industry. He was no longer my client, but came to my goal setting workshop. And I told him, it's overdue. Like, you could be doing this for your industry right now. Guess who's doing an in-person workshop 2 weeks from now? Him.
Nice.
Right? So you can't force your people to do what you think and what you see in them. And a lot of times we see the greatness in other people the same way other people see the greatness in us before we do.
Right.
Well, that actually that kind of just resonates with us as well, because in our business, right, our business it scales through recruitment, right? And a lot of times we have people who are currently employees, certain organizations, and they look at us and they're looking from where we started, right? Like 4 years ago when we first started, and they say, well, I can't believe that you guys grew so fast. And I always tell them the problem is that you're scared. You put in the roadblock of believing in yourself, because you don't have to do anything that you're already doing. Right? If I did it, you could do it. So there's nothing that could stop you from it. But the only problem here is that you're putting that safety net. Oh, I have an organization that's paying me. The problem is that you're settling for a little bit less for the comfort of a paycheck.
Yeah.
As opposed to getting the profits of what you're gonna earn.
Right.
So I do believe that happens to all of us, particularly when we're in sales. But again, people often fail to see that life is just risky. I mean, being in a relationship is risky. Everything has a risk.
Everything we do has risk. Being in a corporate job is a risk.
Exactly. Right. And it's not a guarantee.
It's not a guarantee.
But
that's why people get laid off and they don't know what to do with themselves, because they're hung up on their whole identity is in that title.
Yeah.
But the truth is, entrepreneurs do it too, right? Your whole identity, God forbid something were to go wrong, your identity should not be wrapped up in this business. It should be wrapped up in, okay, well, I had it before, I could get it again. What's my next venture?
Yeah, that's why we have him. He kind of pulls us back all the time. Ray and I we want to be buying the world.
Oh no, I'm always I'll say a little Spanish. My mom's like, pon los pies sobre la tierra. like yo, bring your feet back to earth, bro. But so Jessica, have you ever fired a client?
I did.
Wow. Tell us about that.
I did. And it was so funny.
Because I could imagine some people are really hard to coach. And you got to be like, yo, you know what? F you, bro.
You know what? I have not had somebody that's hard to coach. I will say that. I think in this case, the person was not executing on anything. And so I said to him, it doesn't make sense for you to pay me if you're not going to do what we agree to do. And he said to me, are you breaking up with me? Are you breaking up with me? I was like, well, I'm not really breaking up with you. I'm saying you could keep paying me, but you're not executing on anything. So it doesn't make any sense.
But also you're probably invested into this
time
relationship, right? Like it's your time.
Yes.
And if you're gonna really coach a business, like you said, we're in the business, or you're in the business. Yeah. So now you're invested. You want to see it succeed, obviously.
It's so frustrating when they're not executing on what they're supposed to execute. Because I'm an executor, right?
Right.
I'm like, I'm gonna do it, and I'm gonna do it scared. So when they're not executing, I breathe. I'm like, all right, well, when are we doing this? But to your point, it's like, you know what? Let me go find another client.
Right.
Yeah.
So because I guess I'm sorry, Ray. I guess you take ownership on it as well, because it's like, if this person is not doing their part, then you could run and say something to someone else. Well, I haven't got to where I'm at.
I really don't. I really don't. I don't even hold my hat on that, because you know what? At the end of the day, that's on you.
Right.
And anyone who knows me, and if they want to believe, if the person said that and they want to believe, I'm okay with that.
Right.
Yeah.
There's so many, there's 3 million people in Brooklyn alone. Like, I'm okay. I'll find somebody else.
So talk about your process. I don't want to call it onboarding, but onboarding. Like, let's say somebody comes to JR Coaching and they say, hey, look, I'm having some, or do they come in distress, or do they come at their peak and maybe they want to, take it to the next level?
Most people don't come at their peak.
Okay.
Most people don't.
So let's talk about that.
Yeah. So yes, of course, there's an onboarding process. And there's even a pre-board. I like to call it like I heard this word the other day and I said I'm stealing it, like a chemistry call. Mm-hmm. Like, let me see if I can be the solution to your problem. And if not, maybe I have somebody else.
Right.
Right. And so, like, let's say you want to put together like HR processes. I don't know. I can tell you the people part on how to treat people, how to get them motivated, how to get them executing, how to even put processes, because I had a lot of HR stuff going on when I was in corporate. You could put together processes like one-on-one.
Right.
There should be a process there. A process to maybe let them go, like to put them on a PIP.
Right.
I can help you with that. But if you want an expert, that I'm probably not the one.
Right.
So we'll have a chemistry call, and then the onboarding process. Let's say we decide, okay, yeah, we're going to work together. Typically, I'll have a form for them to fill out so that when we get on the call, we're ready to like start diving deep. And so I just onboarded 2 executives the other day. They work for large global organizations. And one of the executives said to me, this is our first call and I love it. You're already getting me thinking. Like I'm already having, it felt like, it didn't feel like an onboarding call. It felt like it was a one-on-one already. Right. Yeah.
That's awesome.
So, and you mentioned like executives for companies. So obviously you coach entrepreneurs and you coach, executives,
large organizations like Fortune 500.
Would you do you have a specific type of person that you like to coach, or would you anyone hey, look, I'm a salesperson and no. I just sell cars and I want to take my business to the next level.
Wow.
You want is that somebody you would coach or
what's funny is that a dealer did reach out to me the other day. That's funny. But I think it really goes on the first chemistry call. What I found interesting is I was like, I think I love entrepreneurs better. But recently, I've been coaching more executives in large organizations. And I think it's so interesting. And the benefit for me is that I get to take large corporate strategies to my entrepreneurs, right? And I also help them bring fill in that gap. Like, we're not that different. And the problems that they're having in these large Fortune 500 companies are very similar to the problems that you're having in your entrepreneur side.
Just at a different scale level, right?
Yeah.
Or maybe at the same scale. I think Jay mentioned this to me, or maybe it was Argelis. We were talking about hey, look, we left the corporate world, and we talk a lot of shit about the corporate world. Let's be honest, guys. We fucking shit on it, right? But then we take a step back and we be like, we're grateful for everything that we have to. And then, you gotta be grateful. But then, as we scale, as our business grows, we tend to find ourselves thinking more corporate, and then we I sometimes get scared. I've been like, damn, we talk all this shit about not trying to be corporate. And then we have to institute these systems.
Mm-hmm. I was just going to say, corporate is good for teaching us the systems.
Right.
Right. They are good for showing the roadmap on what we can do. Now, we may not want to do it exactly like them. Correct. But they are very good at the systems. And I think, honestly, without my corporate career, I don't know if I would be here exactly, because the way that I work,
I agree.
The way that I work, the way that my mind works now, just has that system-based. And for sales, if you didn't have that that training ground, I think it would be more difficult.
I agree 100%.
I was going to ask you, how much of a correlation do you think there is between business coaching and probably a healthy living or exercising? Because oftentimes you start seeing people the perception, the optic, right? The successful businessman or businesswoman is fit. It's not
optics. There's actually data around
That's what I want to say. So can you please just elaborate a little bit on that?
I think it really comes down to habits, right? And it comes down to so I do work out, but I didn't always. And I remember the president of my company and whatever his title was right under him, they would wake up every day at 4 a.m. to go to the gym together. And because I was remote and they would come to New York and we'd travel, I would have privy to their lifestyle. And I just thought they were just such amazing people, such nice people. And I'm like, damn, I want to be like that. But I'm like, I can't. I can't wake up at 5 a.m. I can't even go to the gym at 5 p.m., let alone 5 a.m.
I saw one of your videos that you said something about, I hate working out, but I do it.
But I do it often.
I fucking do it.
But I do it often. I do. So what happened was I was traveling one time for work, and I had just kind of started working out because I didn't feel good in my body anymore. And I was waking up at 3 a.m. to catch this flight. And I said to myself, if I could wake up at 3 a.m.
to
catch a flight for work, why can't I wake up for myself? Mm-hmm. And that's when, because it's much easier once you get it done first thing in the morning. I went this morning at 6 a.m. I was up at 5 a.m. Got
full day ahead of you.
Exactly. I feel like I got the hardest part of my day over with.
You know what's crazy? I heard something a couple days ago about mindset. And you said, look, if I'm waking up at 3 a.m. to catch a flight. Like I could wake up
For somebody else.
right? I could work out, right? But then this person posed a question, like, what is it you really want to do, right? Like, what do you want to do? Oh, I want to do this, all right. And then for most people, it's followed up by, I want to do this, but I can't do it because of X, Y, Z. I can't do it because I have kids. I can't do it because I just got married. I can't do it whatever. And then if I asked you, I said, hey, do you think in 2024 you can make $1 million? Like just 2024 right now, can you make $1 million?
Hell yeah.
You can make $1 million in this year.
That's it. I'm making it.
No, I'm saying like,
without a doubt.
most people will say if
No.
you haven't been clocking $1 million,
You're not making.
you're not going to make $1 million.
They're not gonna believe it.
They're not going to believe it. But then if you say, don't say the name, but think about the person that you love most in this world. Not like, even if you have multiple kids, think about one. Choose one. It's the one person that you love the most in this world. And I tell you, you have a choice. You make $1 million in 2024 or that person dies.
Whoa.
So then
Morbid.
you say,
Morbid.
so then you say, fuck. Right? Like,
They got dark here.
and I'm going to
real
shout
quick.
this person out. It was,
Starting to sweat, bro.
I was listening to the guy. The
millions.
guy's name is Jamie Gruber. I don't want to take his thing, but he's like, let's say you don't make the $1 million, but you're not gonna answer. Like your first answer is gonna be like, all right, I'm gonna figure out how the fuck I'm gonna make $1 million this year, right? Like, so now you just changed your mindset because of the circumstance, right? So now you're talking about maybe you're between a rock and a hard place, right? So you're automatically there's a switch. So there's always a switch. There's always
You got to find it.
there's always or there's always a mindset. Like, so when you can learn how to control it and say, you know what? Yeah, I can make $1 million. Whatever. I used $1 million. That's the example that he used. But if we bring that down to like going to the gym, right? Like, like you can choose not to because there's no real consequence. At least in the moment, there's a consequence probably long term. But in the moment, you're probably not gonna see a consequence. So you say, fuck it, I'll work out tomorrow.
Well, I mean, I think it goes back to that saying, like, choose your hard, right?
Right.
It's hard to be not in shape. It's
Right.
hard to wake up and go to the gym.
Right.
It's hard to not make enough money. It's hard to get up and figure out and execute on whatever it is you want to do. Right. So I think it's like choose your hard. But I think when you think about mindset, and a lot of my work, we dive very deep, and many people you mentioned before, like, oh, you're a life coach. I'm not.
Right.
And many people do
I was gonna ask
confuse
that.
me.
So talk about the difference.
Yeah. So they do confuse that, but I definitely work on personal development because to me, the way we really get to execute on our goals and truly live out the way we want is when we switch our mindset, is when we can really work on our mental models and question the way that we think, the things that we believe, the things we've been telling ourselves. Most of these things have happened for so long, we don't even notice it.
Right.
When we think about our habits, you wake up, you maybe you go to the bathroom, maybe you take a shower first, maybe you brush your teeth in the shower, maybe you don't brush your teeth in the shower, whatever it is that you do, you've been doing it for so long, you don't even think.
And you probably do it in the same exact order every single day.
You do it in the same exact order every single day without even thinking about it.
Right.
So when you really think about what are my habits, and are my habits bringing me to what I want or not? And if they're not, making those small little changes. People think, oh, I need to make this big old change in order to get what I want, right? I'm not as confident. In order to be confident, I need, I don't know. I need to drive a range. I need money. I need the cutest girl or the cutest guy on my arm, whatever it is, right? That's going to make me feel confident. But none of that makes you feel confident. And we all know that, right? But it's the small little changes in our habits that will fix that. But people don't want to do that.
Right. I mean,
And that's where coaching does come in, because when I can say, you know what? No, that does really look good on you. Your eyes, you're this, like, and I'm reaffirming you and telling you, you have the confidence and this is where you have it. Oh, you've done it before. Or why do you think that way? And we start questioning your thoughts together. You're just like, damn. And you need that reassurance sometimes.
right.
Let me tell you something. I just want to say this last thing. Outside perspective matters.
Yeah.
Right.
And when you think about the fact that some of the largest Fortune 500 companies, what are they? Consulting companies.
Right.
And they get hired to go into other huge companies because they can't see their own blind spots.
Right.
We cannot see our own blind
That's very
spots.
true.
How I'm sorry, Jay. How authentic, I'll use the word that you use, do you feel that you have to be an effective coach? And the reason I ask is because, yeah, you could say, hey, that sweater looks nice on you, but yeah, that sweater, that's not the sweater you should be using. Like, it doesn't look good on you. How like when you do your personal coaching, how is there a line that you draw? Or do you go full force?
I'm getting worse and worse or better and better, however you want to put it. Because I will call you out. I will call you out. Although I will say that every time somebody told me the other day, you're not as mean as you think you are.
Right.
But I will tell them exactly. And I was having a heart-to-heart one time, and it was 3 people. And I said, why are you even here? Like, why are you even here? And she just looked at me. I'm like, I know why I'm here, but why are you here? Because you seem like you don't like anything. And I will have those tough conversations with you because it needs to happen.
Right.
I guess that's the toughest part sometimes.
Well, I mean, does that mean, like you said, are you getting better and better or worse and worse, right? Like,
no, but
that probably makes you more effective.
But you would expect that from a coach too, in a certain way, because
right?
it's like,
I mean, you're
you
supposed
push
to.
me.
That's
Yeah.
what you're paying them for, to push
That's
you.
how I
no
see
different
it.
than- yeah.
That's how I see it. That's what I'm here
Then your
for.
personal gym trainer, like they're gonna beat the crap out of your body, but again, as long as you see the results, you're gonna be happy. You're gonna be a masochist and keep on going.
Exactly.
But then also different people respond to different.
Yeah,
and that's why you have to kind of,
Right.
I'll soften it up depending
on who you're
I'll
speaking
go
to,
a
right.
little
I was
more.
gonna say, like in terms of figuring out the endurance, like if you're an entrepreneur, you're trying to figure out or trying to make an assessment based on their risk endurance. How do you know when to push or how do you know when to pull back?
I think because, and probably all of you know, it's because I've been in sales for so long, I'm a really good judge of character, and I really know how to read the temperature in the room typically. And so to your point also, they're hiring me to do that. Right now, I'm going to do it with love and with compassion, but I am going to push you and I'm going to say, I don't understand why you're thinking that way, or why are you here when you're telling me you don't like anything going on here? So why are you still doing this business?
Right.
Right. So I'm going to push you. And many people, I think every single client says, I challenge everything. And listen, if you tell me I'm wrong, I'm wrong. That's fine.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm wrong. You know you better than I. You're the expert on you.
Right.
I'm just here to help you and challenge your thoughts and ideas. Now, many times they'll be like, no, you're off. And then they come back and they're, maybe you're right. Again, because I have the outside perspective, it's much easier for me.
Yeah. How do you end a coaching relationship? Whether that be because, hey, look, you made it. Like you're where you were supposed to be when you came here. Or does that ever happen? Or should ongoing coaching be a thing?
Yeah, I believe for me, I always need to be one step ahead. So I'm always reading a new book. I'm always, I have a coach. I'm looking for a retreat to go on. I'm always kind of putting myself in rooms where I don't feel comfortable because that's how I expand. But is there an end to a coaching relationship? I mean, I've had some clients for years.
Right.
So I guess it depends. It really depends.
And it's not necessarily based on success, right? Like, I guess you could have clients for years who are killing it, right? And being very successful and they're doing everything you tell them, and they're just and
we're coming up with a new idea, with a new venture.
So then you kind of become like a consultant to that business in a sense.
Exactly.
Right.
It can move from coaching to consulting, depending.
Which I see that you also do that, right?
Oh,
consulting.
Yeah,
Perfect.
definitely.
Okay.
Let's talk
I want to get into the fun part. So
I was gonna
finish your
talk about-
coaching questions.
No, I'm done with it. Coaching questions. I was going to say, in terms of the retreats, let's talk about the retreats, right?
Yeah.
Because somebody just mentioned something to us yesterday about a retreat.
Oh, that was me. That was me.
Yeah.
That was me.
It's someone right here. So talk about a little bit about the retreats. Like,
It's expensive.
What I know.
You didn't talk about it like that yesterday.
You know
What
what's
is it
so
like?
funny is I've only done women retreats, and someone asked me just this week, why aren't you doing a co-ed retreat? Like, let's do a men and women retreat, because my event on Sunday was co-ed. And listen, I love all the women empowerment stuff, but I do value men's perspective and energy in the room. It does change the room in a good way, in my opinion. And so, cheers.
Yo.
Cheers to the guys. Cheers to the guys.
Drink to that.
Put it to the real.
Salud.
That was going on the real.
Yes.
Finally.
I'm into women empowerment too, but I agree with that 1,000%.
Yeah, it matters. And I think we all need to support each other.
Yes.
Because again, because I have male clients, I know they go through a lot of the same things that we go through. Right. Women think, oh man, they're all confident and they don't have like that negative. We all have that negative voice. All of us have that little negative voice in our head. But anyway, so my retreats, they're interesting, and they're not for everybody. And what I like to do is kind of the trifecta between personal development, business development, and spiritual development. And so I lead these retreats with another woman. She's a spiritual coach. And so what we like to do is, we'll work on things like communication is always going to be on the table because we can always develop and perfect our own communication. So that will always be on the table. So we work on things like effective communication, but we also do like a release ritual. Let's release all that stuff. I don't know if you guys have ever done a release ritual.
Is that like the ayahuasca tea or something like that?
No.
No.
Let me tell you.
Talk about ayahuasca.
This guy wants to go to
Let me tell you, I'm never going to do ayahuasca.
Oh my God.
I'm doing a retreat to Costa Rica, and the compound asked, "Do you guys want to do ayahuasca?" And I was like, "Absolutely not.
I would
want
never.
no responsibility for someone having a bad trip on my retreat.
Oh.
No, thank you. No, thank you."
Talking about bad trips.
No
kidding.
no trips at all here.
But anyway, so I like to have the trifecta between personal, spiritual, and business development. Because I think we're all one person, right? Many people, and even us, like back in the day, it would be like your work persona and your home persona.
Right.
I don't believe that exists.
Yeah.
I believe that we should just be one person, because when we have that, have you ever been at work and you have your work persona on and that shit is exhausting? It is mentally fucking draining.
Yeah.
And so, and it's funny, I had been at my corporate job for almost 15 years or maybe 15 years, I don't remember. And my boss at the time, who had known me for like 8 or 9 years, this is when I was like just being my full self, and I was cursing, and he's like, "Wow, you're really worked up, right?" I said, "No, that's actually just the way I speak." But he had never heard me curse because I was, being corporate Jess.
Right.
But anyway,
Covering it up.
yeah, I was covering it up, and it was exhausting. So I decided I'm not doing that anymore. And by the way, when I started just being my full authentic self, I got promotions faster.
Mhm.
Everybody wanted to work with me. Everybody was like figuring out, okay, well, what's going on in your team? Like, you guys are killing it over there. So, but again, that does not mean you go tell everybody to fuck off when you're mad. That's not what I'm talking about.
Oh, not? That's exactly what I was
Right, right, Jay? Right, Jay?
That is not what I'm talking about.
Let me tell you one thing.
Listen, but I do believe that sometimes we have to take our work persona home and watch what we say at home. And sometimes we have to take our fun, easygoing person to work.
Yes.
That's what I believe.
Agreed.
But, so in my retreats, to answer your question, getting back there, we do things like that. We'll work on your communication styles. We'll work on some business stuff that way, branding, personal branding, leadership. But then we also go into doing a release ritual, doing, figuring out where we think mentally. We'll meditate.
So a release ritual would consist of what?
Well, we'll put some things depending on like what the theme is, but you write some things on a piece of paper, and then we'll do like a prayer, and then we release it. We'll burn it.
Okay. All right.
You know who Jim? I'm sure you know who Jim Rohn is.
Yes,
right?
yes.
So it's very funny because a few years ago I started like just listening to his audio, and he's very spiritual. He's always starts speaking about how he started doing consulting and took companies and making hundreds of millions of dollars. But the point is that he said everything in business is correlated with the Bible. And if you start looking into the Tony Robbins and all the people that you say, oh, these individuals, they're always referring to the Bible. Even Steve Harvey for himself. How much I have read the Bible, and I have read quite a few books myself, and I do see a lot of that comes from it. So what about you? What do you think?
Yeah. So what's interesting, I'm not very religious, but I am very spiritual.
Right.
And so what I find interesting is whether you speak Jim Rohn, whether you speak about
Joel Osteen.
Well, he's very religious, right? But there's religious people and not so religious people and you'll see the thread. Mm-hmm. And you'll see it in the Bible as well, correct, right? So when you think about, Jesus says, "I'm within you," right? So that's listening to your gut. That's listening to your intuition. When you think about, Jesus also said, "Go and tell no one." Sometimes we have to keep our ideas close to us, right? Because people around us, our parents, people that we grew up with, they don't have that mindset. They want to keep us safe, right? So they're like, "No, that's crazy. Don't do that," right? So depending. So it's things like that. You'll see the stream everywhere. Even when you think about the law of attraction, and I don't know how much you're into that or not.
Love the fucking law of attraction, by the way.
You read the book?
Well, I didn't read the book. I love the concept of the law of attraction.
Okay. Well, even there, they also refer to the Bible, and a lot of the same themes thread through, and that's why I do the trifecta of personal, business, and spiritual development.
Are your retreats like one day, multiple days?
Oh no, we're going to Costa Rica for 5 days.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
I mean, just letting you know, if I ever go,
so we're gonna get
on day 5, I'm start catching anxiety attacks.
Jay can't travel for more than 3 days. Jen, you got anything else? All right. So who's Jessica? You know, what got Jessica to where Jessica is today? Where did Jessica grow up? You know, talk to us a little bit about who you are on the personal side.
Why did we do this backwards? We should have done that in the beginning.
Bro, this is Industreet, bro.
brother.
You're always switching this thing up. You gotta send me the
show
format.
So I grew up in Brooklyn and Queens. So like half Brooklyn, half Queens.
Ridgewood,
Yep.
Glendale.
Oh,
Yep.
Oh, wow.
Brooklyn and Queens.
Which Ridgewood is not. Well, no,
That's
I was.
Queens,
I
basically.
actually grew up. Actually, yes, Ridgewood first, then Cypress Hills, then we moved to Queens Village.
Okay.
But then I moved back to Brooklyn into Cypress Hills because my parents still owned that home. So that's why I say Brooklyn, Queens. But I spent like my teenage years and stuff in Queens. And so, yeah, then I had a kid at 19 and then I had another kid at 27 and then I moved to Long Island. But, you know, Puerto Rican parents, I have a big family. My parents together had 4, plus my dad had my brother and my sister from his previous marriage. So there was 6 of us all together. And then, you know, lots of cousins and tons of friends all the time. And
Did you do a lot of traveling back to the island or?
I used to go to Puerto Rico all the time. I haven't gone in a couple of years, but I have been to Puerto Rico many years of my life.
And I know you said you didn't graduate college.
Right.
What high school?
I went to Martin Van Buren High School.
Oh, Van Buren. Okay.
Yeah.
It's a Queens thing, bro. You don't know.
I don't know.
All right.
It's a Queens
He's an
thing.
LES. Right here.
LES guy.
So what's in store for 2024 for Jessica?
So 2024, I definitely want to scale the corporate side of the business. I want to have more speaking. I had tons of speaking engagements last year, but I still want to do more because honestly, I'm not a good speaker. Well, that's a lie. I'm a much better speaker.
I'm like, what are you saying?
I used to hate speaking.
Right.
Hate. Oh my God. Like I would not even give a toast at a family function. That's how bad it was. So corporate forced me to
Right. Corporate sales specifically.
exactly.
Right.
So if you wanted to elevate, you wanted to climb the corporate ladder, you had to. And so then that was one area. Okay, fine. That was better. But then when I moved over to being an entrepreneur and actually even just showing up online, that was scary, right? And then showing up in rooms where people may have been more successful than you, that felt scary. So it continues to evolve and grow.
Right.
And so I definitely want to grow that side of the business as well and just continue to serve, right? I do a lot of like, I'm on the leadership board for Big Brothers Big Sisters of Long Island.
Nice.
I serve at Jack and Jill. I was just
I've heard of Jack and Jill, but it's
That's
not
a clo-
coming
that's
to
a clo-
me.
Is that a clothing line?
Well, no,
they're a
but-
Black organization
okay.
that they nationally known, although they were Hispanics were there as well, but I think it's mainly a Black organization. And they had their teen summit and they had like 200 kids there.
Awesome.
And I was
Nice.
speaking to high school seniors and just like these kids, they are so inspiring. This little girl came over to me. She's like, I'm a CEO and I have a clothing line. And I was like,
Nice.
yes, girl, I love
Yeah.
it. So just being around people like kids like that, they
Yeah.
inspire me.
Right.
And so I've spoken at Baruch and a whole bunch of things. So I really want to get more immersed into organizations like that and serve. Like I love being around people and I love helping people and reminding people of their greatness.
Awesome. What do you have?
No, I mean, you hit a point that and when you're talking about that, you know, young lady that she says she's a CEO, I'm seeing that a lot now in terms of like, and I guess it's more visual now with kids, like, you know, kids doing their unboxing videos and
I mean, yeah, you got little kids making millions of dollars on YouTube.
Well, my nephew,
Really?
my nephew is a TikTok star,
nice.
and he is making. I think he told me he made like $400,000 in a month.
How old is he?
21.
I'm scratching my
That's
head.
awesome.
21. Yeah.
That's awesome.
So, and you know, he was consistent. You know, he was.
Let me ask you this: did he go into it with the mindset of, "Hey, I want to become a TikTok star"?
Let me tell you what happened, and I don't know that this happened.
Because I
or
mean,
not.
you're hearing that from a lot
I
of
don't
kids. I'm
believe
gonna be
he
a
did, though.
TikToker.
Okay.
But I'm going to tell you, I think he had it. When you think about manifestation,
Yeah.
he had it in his head.
Right.
Nice.
So, and I'll tell you why, because, and I actually haven't had this conversation with him, but I will. One year he was,
Maybe we could get him on the podcast.
he lives in Nevada.
We'll go to Nevada.
We'll go.
He lives outside of Vegas.
We'll go to Vegas.
Yes,
Wow.
we're going to Vegas.
Higher end studio.
We're going to Vegas. So one year was at my house in the summer and he's like, Titi, you know, you should really go on TikTok. And I'm like, I don't know anything. I don't know how to work that. Like, I don't know how to work TikTok. And I'm like, well, maybe I'll have my virtual assistant, put my stuff on TikTok, whatever. He's like, I'm telling you, the way you speak and your tips and everything, you should go on TikTok. So that tells me whether he said it out loud or not, in his mind, he wanted to be a TikTok.
Right.
So like he thought that was cool. Fast forward a year later, he's making all kinds of money.
Oh, so he told you this prior to him going viral on TikTok.
Wait.
Oh, so he's thinking about it. Okay.
No, that's my point. When you think about manifestation and how that happens, that seed was in his mind.
I think that's funny because, and I'd love to hear your perspective on this. Like a lot of people say, there's what you do out of necessity, right? Like, taking a job, right? Like, you're employed, you do what you do for your family or whoever. And then there's like what you have in your other pocket, which is like, what you think you want to do. And like, whether that's become like an entrepreneur or whether that's become a manager or whether that's become a director or like client corporate life, whatever it is. And you have that there and like, you could probably work on it subconsciously or not. But then there's like a back pocket like that. What do you want? Like, who do you want to be? What do you want to do? Like, what's your purpose? People call it your purpose or what does your soul want, right? But then I think most people don't know how to answer that, especially not like off the bat. Because I think most people will be like, if you're a sales rep, like, and they say, yeah, what do you want to do? Well, probably look into management. Like, I guess that's what's next, right? But what's in the back pocket, right? And I was asking myself this question the other, and sometimes I think I know, and then I'd be like, nah. Like a week later, I'd be like, no, that's not in my fucking back pocket. Like that wasn't it. But I guess it's something. But it's something because I'm kind of looking for it, right? Yeah. But to that point, like if there's a seed that maybe subconsciously.
That goes back to like the
It's
Jim
the power.
Rohn.
So there's a great book. It's called I'm sorry, no, but if I may, right? So because I was gonna say this too.
Yo, we in the street, but you can't block our guests from talking. I apologize.
So you got to read The Power of the Subconscious Mind. Right. Yeah. So it's basically you manifesting everything. If you're going to start thinking negatively, negative things is going to happen. Right. If you start thinking positively, you're going to have a positive outcome. So in his head, he probably just wanted her to try it first, but then again, it worked out to his benefit.
So Jim Rohn, what he was saying about
but Jim Rohn also, he goes into manifestation also, and there's a lot of people that talk about manifestation and how to do that. But the problem is, to your point, and think about it even for yourselves, when you were a little kid, you wanted to be
a baseball player,
right? Whatever it was, right? Then at some point you said, oh, that's not possible for me. Right. For whatever reason. Now, sure, you want to be a baseball player, but there's a million other things in baseball you could have done.
Yeah.
Awesome, but you only had your eye on that one thing. And then at some point you said, I can't do that. Right. And so the idea.
Again,
Jesus.
Go ahead.
No. I'm thinking about it.
On fire right now.
I wanted to be a baseball player, and I was like,
but you ended up being a
I'm striking out too much. But then, there's a lot of things you could do within baseball that doesn't necessarily mean you're a baseball player.
You could have been an agent. You could have been,
sports medicine, whatever, right?
Sports medicine. You could have been sports marketing. There's a million other things that you could do. But our minds or something, maybe you're striking out too much. Maybe your parents told you. Maybe your friends told you. Whatever that is that stopped you from dreaming. But the reality is, and that's the problem. And I love that, like, in this world now, it's like manifest and all those things. And it's not just that. You still have to put the work in. But the point of dreaming more and dreaming bigger is coming back. And it doesn't matter how old you are. When you think about people have gotten degrees at 90 years old because that was always their dream, right? So I think that when we can touch into, okay, what did I want when I was a kid? And what did that actually represent? So maybe you want to be a baseball player, but what did that really mean? Maybe you just really wanted to be on stage. Maybe you wanted to be recognized. Maybe, who knows? But what does that actually look like for you now? And how can you manifest that is just a whole other aspect. And by the way, in my opinion, and the way I coach, that's also what I love to tap into.
Love it.
Let me ask you a question now. The Jessica that you are today, as opposed to the Jessica that you were 10 years ago.
That's a great question.
Now, 10 years ago, you probably might have manifested where you're currently at, or maybe not, right? But where you currently are right now, where would the next Jessica be in the next 10 years?
Talking about the loading?
Yeah, but that's not the...
No, it's in a different... It's basically on the
Well, let's go into like the old Jessica.
Right. I thought that's what you were
going
with.
Let's do that first. But because it's funny, I was telling somebody, well, that's the old me. Because the old me was very like, I was quick. I was quick to like, the Brooklyn would come out. Nobody wanted to see the Brooklyn come out. And someone said to me the other day, I just love how you lead with a feminine energy. And I'm like, do I? Thank you, because that's new. Because I was more, I was in sales. I'm a single mother. I need to get shit done. Like, you need to get shit done. Everybody gets shit done. Yeah, exactly. Like, there's no time for this. Like, hurry up.
Right.
GSD.
That was kind of the vibe. And the old me would get frustrated often, right? And it wasn't until it started costing me that I was like, okay, I need to figure something out. And when I say costing me, meaning like I would get upset. And I remember one time I threw something and it shattered like my entire oven door. So I had to get a new oven door. And then I got upset again and I broke the washing machine.
Oh, fuck, Jessica.
And like, these things are not cheap. These things are not cheap. And so I said, okay, I need to work on me. I cannot get angry like this anymore. And so, what I used to do is I would mask whatever I was going through and dive into work. And that's it. I would just focus on my kids and work. And, my kids were always in a lot of sports. So like I was always just busy. But then it would surface in, somebody didn't put the toilet seat down and now I'm pissed. Right? Because that's how that works.
Right.
That's how that works. And so then a lot of therapy came in. And I even took my oldest to therapy at one point. Thank goodness he was willing to go, because I wanted our relationship to be better.
Yeah, right.
Like, that wasn't the relationship that I envisioned. And I was like, something has to change and it has to be me.
Right.
Because it's not going to be the kid.
Right.
And I got a coach and I just wanted all of my relationships to get better. And they did. And not that they were bad, right? I have my sister and my family I was always close to, but I wanted to be able to communicate without frustration. I wanted to be able to have disagreements and not blow up and not go into like text wars is what I used to call it, when you're back and forth with people. And even my ex at the time, well, he's still my ex, but even him, when we would argue, I just hated feeling like that. And when I started changing, every single relationship in my life also changed. So yes, this is not the same person. My kids will attest. This is definitely not the same person I used to be.
So has coaching other people helped you?
I always say getting into management helped me.
Okay.
Managing people helped me.
Right.
Because you had no choice. You couldn't blow up.
Yeah.
You want your
job,
you
right.
still want your multi 6-figure job, right? So you need to relax.
Does the Brooklyn still come out?
It hasn't come out in a very, very, very long time. I can never say never. I will say, she did come out.
What's her name?
She did come out summer 2022. For one moment, I was like, oh my God, I lost my shit. But that's a win. That's a freaking win. When it did happen, I was like, you know what? I'm so proud of me because that hasn't happened in a really long time. But yes, but the future Jess, I think she'll be even more in tune, even more spiritual, because I do believe that leadership and especially entrepreneurship is a spiritual journey. And the more I can get in touch with who I am spiritually and what I want, I'll be able to manifest it even faster.
Awesome.
What does Jessica do for fun? Not Brooklyn Jessica, Jessica today.
Yeah, Brooklyn Jessica's still around. But I have so many friends, clients that have become friends. Jules was my friend first, but she's also, my client and she's my friend. And I'm in a different era of my life. My oldest is just turned 29.
Wow.
My youngest is about to be 22 years old, right? So I'm like getting my life.
Do you drink with them?
It.
We've drank. We've had a drink together for sure. They're more of weed smokers. But,
do you smoke?
And I don't smoke. I don't. I don't smoke in general. But I will say, I'm just in a different era of my life, and I travel. One of my counterparts that I do the retreats with, she lives in London. So like I went to London the other day. We hosted 15 women in a VIP day.
Oh, that's awesome.
So lots of travel, lots of just doing whatever the fuck I want to do.
Beautiful.
Fucking love it.
That's what we all want.
Yeah.
Do whatever the fuck you want to do.
Yeah.
Hey,
How often do you catch yourself coaching yourself?
Often.
Probably all the time.
All the time.
Yeah.
Why am I feeling this way? Why am I triggered?
Does it get annoying?
Why is this person on my... I'm going to say this. I'm not going to lie. So, because I don't watch television, right? And I listen to books and I read books and I, whatever. And I coach myself. And I'm not going to lie. Like sometimes I'm just like, okay, I need to just like zone out and watch television.
Yeah.
And
How do you disconnect? What do you do?
I'll watch TV for like one weekend every other like 6 weeks or
Right,
something
right.
like that. But I hang out with friends and I go to the gym.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you, how do you do like the work-life balance? Because given that I'm pretty sure that with all your clients, everything is on schedule,
Yeah.
like I can only see that getting
So
quite-
work-life balance, I don't know that we ever have a balance. We probably have more of a harmony. And right now, for me, work doesn't feel like work. You know that stupid saying is like, when
Do
you
what
find
you
something
love.
you love,
Yeah.
blah, blah, blah.
Mhm.
That's where I'm at right now.
It's funny
That's
you
where I'm
mentioned
at
that
right
because I
now.
told my wife, my wife said, "Oh yeah, because your job is fun." I'm like, I do what I love.
I mean,
It
it's
doesn't
funny
feel like I'm working.
because you make it fun, right? Like,
But I'll say this, I loved being in sales, but I still felt like I was working,
Yeah,
right? I don't feel like I'm working. I feel like I'm serving and it feels good to me. So it is different. It is different because I did love being in sales because we have fun in sales and we hit numbers and all that.
right.
That stuff was
drive.
fun
It's
to me.
exciting,
It's
right?
all about
Yes,
hitting the
it's
numbers.
exciting.
Numbers.
Yeah. But now I really do feel like I don't feel like it's work.
That's awesome. So, all right. Just to wrap up, how does someone know they're ready to be coached, right? And how much does humility play a role in that? And if you are ready to be coached, man, just wrap it up. How can somebody contact you? You know, your Instagrams, your TikTok. I'm sure you're on TikTok now, right?
I am, but not really. I am, but not
Alright.
very often. I hang out mainly on Instagram and LinkedIn. But I think how do you know you're ready to be coached?
Right.
Number one, when you're open to other ideas and when you're open to being wrong.
Right.
Right. And I think that just the desire to change, the desire to know there's something better than this, right? Even if it's less frustration, even if it's more money, whatever it is, there's something better. When you know there's something better and I know I can attain it, you definitely, and you've tried, you might as well just go ahead and get a coach. And so I mainly hang out on Instagram at Coach Jessica Rivera. And I'm always in my stories and I post every day and whatever. And then I'm also on LinkedIn. Yeah.
Jessica Rivera.
Jessica Rivera.
Beautiful.
It has definitely been our pleasure to have
Final
you.
thoughts,
Jessica.
final questions, final thoughts. Anything?
I got a question.
What is it?
In your line. So how do you handle a situation where you have someone that you're coaching, but the person has the mindset of always thinking about the worst case scenario?
Yeah, that's difficult. And I'm going to say that has happened. And sometimes, and I've had like those chemistry calls where I'm like, I am not, and I make it really clear, I'm not a therapist, right? So you may need a therapist. You may need someone who's more qualified in that area and in that space, because I'm not here to like unlock old wounds and like childhood trauma and all that. Like that's just not my expertise. And that's not, and really a lot of it is, and that's one of the reasons why I'm not a life coach. I hold on to that. Like I could be very empathetic and I don't want to do that. I don't want to think
Take
about
it home with you.
I don't want to think about your like childhood trauma
Like, you
and
won't
how
be
you
able to
got
disconnect right
violated
away. Right,
when
right.
you were a kid. Like I don't want to carry that. But I think what's crazy is that I think that therapy has been normalized a little bit, but there's still a lot of people really against it.
Right.
And they need people like that probably need a therapist first, and then we can work on kind of coaching is forward thinking, right? Therapy is more backward thinking.
Got it.
Yeah, coaching is more forward thinking.
I mean, Jelly, we'll get you a therapist, bro. You should have told you. You should have came to us.
Do you
You should have came to us.
Let me know. Let me know. I got
All right,
you.
Jessica. So if you were a video game, that was the question that
But before
Bro,
you go, I have one question. You just came to me.
hold on.
Okay, our
Producer Rob has a question.
Yeah.
10%.
We have a question. Maybe
This-
I don't sound good in the mic, so just repeat the question.
You got it right here. This is your mic right here?
So,
This is your mic right here.
yeah, but sometimes you know.
Okay, all right.
Basically, it's an advice. So, who you give an advice to entrepreneur who is afraid to do what he love or she love, but the fear to fail doesn't not allow to move forward.
You got that, Jess?
Yes.
Okay.
So the fear of failure is the problem here. That's why they don't feel that they're executing on whatever it is they want to execute on. So I would say two things. There's two things I see there. Number one, there is a fear of failure, but is there a fear of success? There's actually a thing of fear of success. So some people fear success because if I become more successful than you, now it's like, who do I think I am? Right? And you may lose people around you and people may not understand you. So that actually exists. But if there is a fear of failure, I would say this: you failed before. We all have failed before. on some capacity, and we've gotten over it, right? And the truth is it true failure or is it a perceived failure? So sometimes, I'm going to give you an example. So when I first got on Instagram, I started my Instagram like 2 years ago, or 2.5 years ago, maybe a little longer. And I would do lives, a live IG, talking to nobody.
Right.
Like nobody.
Right.
And people would tell me, wow, like you literally did that and nobody was on there. And I'm like, I know, because my goal is just to reach one person. Now, if my goal was to reach 20 people, 30 people, that may have been considered a failure.
Right.
Right? Because nobody was on there. But it's really a perceived failure because what happened was my consistency. And when people met me and then they went to my IG and they looked back and they're like, oh, wow, she shows up. She's consistent. She's authentic. She's saying something that resonates with me. That was my only goal. So they really have to think about, is there an ego play here? 9 out of 10 times there is. They're too much in their ego thinking, what is somebody going to think? What if I fail? What if this? But what if you don't?
Yeah.
Right.
That's what
And the only way you really know if you're going to fail is by doing it.
But what if you do fail?
And you learn.
Right.
There's
learn.
no such thing as failure.
Right.
You're going
I love
to
that.
learn.
You know, is it real failure or is it perceived failure? Like
Yeah.
I never even thought of that. Like, I mean,
Yeah,
that's
raise my eyebrow.
Yeah.
Look, I'm like, you're right.
That's awesome.
Somebody else is gonna look at it like that wasn't
Good.
a failure. Like,
Good.
That's a great question.
That happens all the time.
So-
People tell you, oh, I
that
failed
question
or
is better
whatever.
than
So you can tell that we're in the street because when we wrapped the show, there was like 3 more questions, right? So
They start flowing. The juices flow.
So let's go to if Jessica.
We had a caller come in.
We had a caller, yes. Thank you, Rob from North Dakota. So if Jessica Rivera was a game, a video game or a movie, and you were on a loading bar, what percentage do you have left, or what percentage have you already?
Oh, I'm just
concluded?
scratching the surface.
So,
I am just scratching the surface.
okay.
I had an amazing year last year. And what I know for fact is I am just scratching the surface.
There you
That's
go.
it.
All right, fellas.
All
So
right.
it's a wrap, baby.
It's
a wrap, baby.
We'll see you
This is In the
next
Street.
week.
Jessica, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for
are
having me,
welcome
guys.
back.
This was so much
anytime.
fun.
You're welcome back anytime.
So much fun.
If you want more booze, there'll be more booze. If you want less booze, whatever you want. Just
yeah, we need more booze next time for sure.
All right, thank you. This is In the Street.
It's a wrap, baby.
Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.